When you think of an insane Minecraft build, you probably think of something like this. I want to master this organic style, and by the end of this video, I want to build a sculpture that will leave your jaw hanging. Luckily, I do have some experience with organics, the most I ever made with this skull, but apart from that, I'm pretty much new. So this was going to be a real learning curve for me. The first thing I had to figure out was what I'm even making, so I began sketching out a general idea for the sculpture, and ended up with this: a girl being controlled by marionette strings, shrouded in darkness. Now that we got the plan, let's get to building. Like, now. Come on, let's go. I started off by making the general shape of the person at a much smaller scale, but then, what I did afterwards, I scaled it up 3 times over. And once I did that, you may notice that there's it's a little blocky, it looks a little weird. So what I did was I used the Axiom Smooth tool and pretty much smoothed out any edges that got messed up through the scaling up process, and then it was pretty much ready for the next step. Now that the shaping's done, I now need to start working on the details. The first place I started detailing was the face, which was honestly probably the most fun, because the thing I want to do, especially what I've seen in the past, was using seemingly random blocks to try and create a cool texture from afar. So you may see right here I'm using flowers, I'm using glazed terracotta, some random blocks seemingly, but in the end it creates a beautiful texture from afar. Before we continue, I just wanted to ask if you take this time to subscribe. Only 3% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it if you could take this time to hit that sub button. Now, back to the video. Afterwards, I pasted the head back onto the body, and from here, I started texturing the face and then working on the hair, which at this point, I didn't really have a great idea for how I wanted to do the hair, so I quickly moved on to the clothing. The way I started doing the clothing was I pretty much laid out the general lines for the shapes, and from there I filled it in with the designated color. And you can see right here I'm using brown tones and a red undertone on it, which I think that turned out really well. And the undershirt I wanted to do a white puffy shirt, so I pretty much started laying out the general white color, and then afterwards I used the shape tool and pretty much built these ovals around it to kind of create that puffy look to it. Once I was finished with that, it was on to the hardest part of this build: the hair. The reason why the hair was so difficult was due to the fact that I had to place every single strand of hair, every block of the hair, by hand. Which, some of you may inquire, why could I not just use a command for it? That is purely because I'm not building on a server, so tools like Voxel Sniper and Loft aren't available to me, which, for example, if I was playing on a server, I could use those. But unfortunately, I had to build it all by hand. But despite that, I was working from top to bottom on the hair, so I started from the base where all the hair springs up from, and slowly started making my way down, which it started really coming together when I started going a lot lower down. At first I was really unsure of how it would turn out, but it really set in when I finally got the bottom half of the hair done. Once the general shape of the hair was fully fleshed out, I spent some time texturing the rest of the body. So you can see here I'm using lighter blocks where light is hitting, and then darker blocks where the shadow is. When I was doing this, I was kind of getting fed up with the hair, so this was a really good break for me. Once the rest of the texturing was complete, we were officially in the final stages of this build. One of the final things I worked on was the background, which what I wanted to do was make a fog-like design, almost as if she's in the background of darkness. So the way I did that was by layering glass and pretty much making it the lightest in the middle and pretty much making it darker on the sides. And once this was all done, I pretty much put it over onto the actual build and began working on the edges, trying to simulate an older picture frame. The way I did this was creating intricate designs around the edges, which at this point you may notice I changed the skin tone slightly. I just felt the old one looked a little like she was tanning in the sun her whole life. Once this was all done, it felt kinda empty. So to remedy this, I added some floating candles for no rhyme or reason, but they look cool, and that was all I needed. And with that, the build is all finished.